The 33 sermons on Nibbāna were delivered by the Venerable Bhikkhu Kaṭukurunde Ñāṇananda in Sinhala at Mitrigala Nissaranavanaya Forest Hermitage. They were translated into English by the same Venerable monk, presently residing at Potkulkala Forest Hermitage in Kandagedara Devalagam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Ekang santang ekang panitang yadidang sabba sankhara samato sabbupadippati nissaggo tanhakkhayo virago nirodho nibbāna. This is peaceful, this is excellent, namely, the stilling of all preparations, the relinquishment of all assets, the destruction of craving, detachment, cessation, extinction. With the permission of the most Venerable Great Preceptor and the assembly of the Venerable Meditative Monks, this is the 27th sermon in the series of sermons on Nibbāna. In our last sermon, we brought up some similes and illustrations to explain why the sadness of the Tathagata has been given special emphasis in the Kaṭukurunde Sutta. Drawing inspiration from the Buddha's sermon, comparing consciousness to a magic show, we made an attempt to discover the secrets of a modern-day magic show from a hidden corner of the stage. The parable of the magic show revealed to us the fact that the direct and the indirect formulation of the law of dependent arising, known as tatata, suchness, or idappaccata, specific conditionality, is similar to witnessing a magic show from two different points of view. That is to say, the deluded point of view of the spectator in the audience and the discerning point of view of the wisdom-eyed critic hidden in a corner of the stage. The reason for the riddle-like outward appearance of the Kaṭukurunde Sutta is the problem of resolving the conflict between these 2 points of view. However, the fact that the Tathagata resolved this conflict at a supramundane level and enjoyed the bliss of emancipation comes to light in the first 3 discourses of the Bodhivagga in the Udāna. These 3 discourses tell us that after the attainment of enlightenment, the Buddha spent the first week in the same seated posture under the Bodhi tree, and that on the last night of the week he reflected on the law of dependent arising in the direct order in the first watch of the night, in the reverse order in the second watch, and both in direct and reverse order in the last watch. These last mentioned reflection, both in direct and reverse order, is like a compromise between the deluded point of view and the discerning point of view mentioned above. Now in a magic show, to see how the magic is performed is to get disenchanted with it, to make it fade away and cease, to free the mind from its spell. By seeing how a magician performs, one gets disgusted with what he performs. Similarly, seeing the arising of the 6 bases of sense contact is the way to get disenchanted with them, to make them fade away and cease, to transcend them and be emancipated. We come across 2 highly significant verses in the Sona Sutta among the 6s of the Anguttara Nikāya, with reference to the emancipation of the mind of an arahant. Nekhammang adhimuttassa pavivekancha chetaso abhyapajjadhimuttassa upadanakkhayasacha tannakkhayadhimuttassa asammohancha chetaso disva ayatanuppadam samma chittam vimuchyate. The mind of one who is fully attuned to renunciation and mental solitude, who is inclined towards harmlessness, ending of grasping, extirpation of craving, and non-delusion of mind, on seeing the arising of sense bases, is fully emancipated. To see how the sense bases arise is to be released in mind. Accordingly, we can understand how the magic consciousness of one who is enjoying a magic show comes to cease by comprehending it. Magic consciousness subsides. In other words, it is transformed into a non-manifestative consciousness, which no longer displays any magic. That is the mental transformation that occurred in the man who watched the magic show from a hidden corner of the stage. This gives us a clue to the cessation of consciousness in the Arahant and the consequent non-manifestative consciousness attributed to him. The Dvaitanupassana Sutta of the Sutta Nipāta also bears testimony to this fact. The title itself testifies to the question of duality forming the theme of this discourse. Throughout the Sutta, we find a refrain-like distinction between the arising and the ceasing of various phenomena. It is like an illustration of the two aspects of the problem that confronted the Buddha. Now that we are concerned with the question of the cessation of consciousness, let us quote the relevant couplet of verses. Yang kinchi dukkham sambhoti sabbang viññānapacca viññānassa nirodhena nati dukkhassa sambhava etang ādīnavam ñattvā dukkham viññānapacca viññānūpasamā bhikkhu niccāto parinita. Whatever suffering that arises, all that is due to consciousness. With the cessation of consciousness, there is no arising of suffering. Knowing this peril, this suffering dependent on consciousness, by calming down consciousness, the monk is hungerless and fully appeased. The comparison between the magic show and consciousness becomes more meaningful in the context of this discourse. As in the case of a magic show, the delusory character of the magic of consciousness is traceable to the perception of form. It is the perception of form which gives rise to the host of reckonings through cravings, conceits, and views, which bring about a delusion. Therefore, a monk intent on attaining Nibbāna has to get rid of this magical spell of the perception of form. The verse we cited from the Kalāvivāda Sutta the other day has an allusion to this requirement. That verse, beginning with the words na sañña saññī, is an attempt to answer the question raised in a previous verse in that sutta, posing the query, katham sametasya vibhoti rupa. To one constituted in which manner does form cease to exist? Let us remind ourselves of that verse. Na sañña saññī, na visañña saññī, no piya saññī, na vibhota saññī, evaṁ sametasya vibhoti rupam, saññā nidānāhi papanca sankham. He is not conscious of normal perception, nor is he unconscious. He is not devoid of perception, nor has he resigned at perception. It is to one thus constituted that form ceases to exist, for reckonings through prolificity have perception as their source. Here the last line states a crucial fact. Reckonings, designations, and the like, born of prolificity, are traceable to perception in the last analysis. That is to say, all that is due to perception. Another reason why form has received special attention here is the fact that it is a precondition for contact. When there is form, there is the notion of resistance. That is already implicit in the question that comes in a verse at the beginning of the Kalayavada Sutta. Tismin vibhute na pusanti pasa. When what is not there, do touches not touch? The answer to that query is Rupe vibhute na pusanti pasa. When form is not there, touches do not touch. We come across a phrase relevant to this point in the Samviti Sutta of the Digha. That is, Sanidassana Sappatigham Rupa. Materiality, according to this phrase, has two characteristics. It has the quality of manifesting itself, Sanidassana. It also offers resistance, Sappatigham. Both these aspects are hinted at in a verse from the Jata Sutta we had quoted at the very beginning of this series of sermons. Dhanamancha rupancha asesang uparujjati patigham rupa sanya cha ettasa chidyate jata. The Jata Sutta tells us the place where the tangle within and the tangle without, anto jata bhajata, of this gigantic samsaric puzzle is solved. And here is the answer. Wherein name and form as well as resistance and the perception of form are completely cut off, it is there that the tangle gets snapped. The phrase patigham rupa sanya cha is particularly significant. Not only the term patigha implying resistance, but also the term rupa sanya deserves our attention as it is suggestive of the connection between form and perception. It is perception that brings an image of form. Perception is the source of various reckonings and designations. The term sanya has connotations of a mark, a sign, or a token, as we have already pointed out. It is as if a party going through a forest is blazing a trail for their return by marking notches on the trace with an axe. The notion of permanence is therefore implicit in the term sanya. So it is this sanya that gives rise to papancha sankha, reckonings through prolificity. The compound term papancha sanya sankha occurring in the Madhupindika Sutta is suggestive of this connection between sanya and sankha. Reckonings, definitions and designations arising from prolific perception are collectively termed papancha sanya sankha. The significance attached to sanya could easily be guessed by the following dictum in the Guhattaka Sutta of the Sutta Nibbāna. Sanyang pariññā vitareyogham. Comprehend perception and cross the flood. Full comprehension of the nature of perception enables one to cross the four great floods of defilements in samsara. In other words, the penetrative understanding of perception is the way to deliverance. Let us now go a little deeper into the connotations of the term sanya. In the sense of sign or token, it has to have something to signify or symbolize. Otherwise, there is no possibility of designation. The sign can be significant only if there is something to signify. This is a statement that might need a lot of reflection before it is granted. A sign, properly so called, is something that signifies. And when there is nothing to signify, it ceases to be a sign. So also is the case with the symbol. This is a norm which is well explained in the Mahavedalla Sutta of the Majjhima Nikāya. In the course of a dialogue between Venerable Mahakottita and Venerable Sariputta, we find in that sutta the following pronouncement made by Venerable Sariputta. Rago kho auso kinchano, doso kinchano, moho kinchano, tie khina savassa bhikkhuno pahina, uchchena mula, tālāvatu kata, anubhava kata, ayatin anupada dhamma. Lust, friend, is something. Hate is something. Delusion is something. They have been abandoned in an influx-free mud, uprooted, made like a palm tree deprived of its sight, made extinct and rendered incapable of sprouting again. So lust is a something, hate is a something, delusion is a something. Now a sign is significant and a symbol is symbolic only when there is something. Another statement that occurs a little later in that dialogue offers us a clarification. Rago khvauso nimitta karano, doso nimitta karano, moho nimitta karano. Lust, friend, is significative. Hate is significative. Delusion is significant. Now we can well infer that it is only so long as there are things like lust, hate and delusion that signs are significant. In other words, why the Tathagata declared that there is no essence in the magic show of consciousness is because there is nothing in him that signs or symbols can signify or symbolize. What are these things? Lust, hate and delusion. That is why the term akinchana, literally thingless, is an epithet for the Arahant. He is thingless not because he no longer has the worldly possessions of a layman, but because the aforesaid things, lust, hate and delusion, are extinct in him. For the Tathagata, the magic show of consciousness has nothing substantial in, because there is nothing in him to make the signs significant. That man with discernment, who watched the magic show from a hidden corner of the stage, found it to be hollow and meaningless, since he had, in a limited and relative sense, got rid of attachment, aversion and delusion. That is to say, after discovering the tricks of the magician, he lost the early impulses to laugh, cry and fear. Now he has no curiosity, since the delusion is no more. At least temporarily, ignorance has gone down in the light of understanding. According to this norm, we can infer that signs become significant due to greed, hate and delusion in our own minds. Perceptions pander to these emotive tendencies. The concluding verse, the Māgandhya Sutta of the Sutta Nipāta, is particularly important, in that it sums up the Arahant's detachment regarding perceptions and his release through wisdom. Sanya virattasya na santi gantha, panya vimuttasya na santi moha, sanyancha ditthincha ye aghayesum, te ghattayanta vitaranti loki. To one detached from percepts, there are no bonds. To one released through wisdom, there are no delusions. Those who hold on to percepts and whips go about wrangling in this world. It is the state of detachment from perceptions and release through wisdom that is summed up by the phrase anasamang ceto vimuttin panya vimuttin in some discourses. With reference to the Arahant, it is said that he has realized by himself through higher knowledge in this very life that influx-free deliverance of the mind and deliverance through wisdom. Anasamang ceto vimuttin panya vimuttin ditteva dhammi sayang abhinya sachigat. So we could well infer that the Arahant is free from the enticing bonds of perceptions and the deceptive tricks of consciousness. It is this unshakable stability that finds expression in the epithets anejo, immovable, and thito, stable, used with reference to the Arahant. The Ānija Sappaya Sutta of the Majjhima Nikāya opens with the following exhortation by the Buddha. Anicca bhikkhave kāma, tucca, musa, mosa dhamma, maya katametam bhikkhave, bāla lāpanam, yecha dittha dhammika kāma, yecha samprāyika kāma, yecha dittha dhammika kāma sañña, yacha samprāyika kāma sañña, Ubhayametang Maradhayang Marasesa Visyo Marasesa Nivapo Marasesa Gocha. Impermanent monks are sense pleasures. They are empty, false, and deceptive by nature. They are conjurers' tricks, monks, tricks that make fools prattle. Whatever pleasures there are in this world, whatever pleasures that are in the other world, whatever pleasurable percepts there are in this world, whatever pleasurable percepts that are in the other world, they all are within the realm of Mara. They are the domain of Mara, the bait of Mara, the beat of Mara. This exhortation accords well with what was said above regarding the magic show. It clearly gives the impression that there is the possibility of attaining a state of mind in which those signs are no longer significant. The comparison of consciousness to a magic show has deeper implications. The insinuation is that one has to comprehend perception for what it is in order to become dispassionate towards it. Sanyang parinya vitare yoga. Comprehend perception and cross the flood. When perception is understood inside out, disenchantment sets in as a matter of course, since delusion is no more. 3 kinds of deliverances are mentioned in connection with the arahants, namely Animitta, the soundless, Appanihita, the undirected, and Sunyata, the void. He spoke of signs being significant. Now where there is no signification, when one does not give any significance to signs, one does not direct one's mind to anything. Panidhi means direction of the mind and aspiration. In the absence of any aspiration, there is nothing essential in existence. There is a certain interconnection between the 3 deliverances. Animitta, the signless, is that stage in which the mind refuses to take a sign or catch a theme in anything. Where lust, hate and delusion are not there to give any significance, signs become ineffective. That is the signless. Where there is no tendency to take in signs, there is no aspiration, expectation or direction of mind. It is as if dejection in regard to the magic show has given rise to disenchantment and dispassion. When the mind is not directed to the magic show, it ceases to exist. It is only when the mind is continually there, directed towards the magic show or film show, that they exist for a spectator. One finds oneself born into a world of magic only when one sees something substantial in it. The magic world is made up only when there is an incentive to exist in it. Deeper reflection on this simile of the magic show would fully expose the interior of the magical illusion of consciousness. Where there is no grasping at signs, there is no direction or expectation, in the absence of which existence ceases to appear substantial. That is why the 3 terms signless, Animitta, undirected, Apanihita, and void, Sunyata, are used with reference to an arahant. These 3 terms come up in a different guise in a discourse on Nibbāna we had discussed earlier. There they occur as Appatitthaṃ, Appavatthaṃ, and Anārammana. Appatitthaṃ means unestablished. Mind gets established when there is desire or aspiration. Panidhi. Contemplation of the suffering aspect, dukkhanupassana, eliminates desire. So the mind is unestablished. Contemplation on not self, anattanupassana, does away with the notion of substantiality, seeing nothing pithy or essential in existence. Pith is something that endures. A tree that has pith has something durable, though its leaves may drop off. Such notions of durability lose their hold on the Arahant's mind. The contemplation of impermanence, anicca-anupassana, ushers in the signless, animitta state of the mind that takes no object, anarammana. The simile of the magic show throws light on all these aspects of deliverance. Owing to this detachment from perception, sanya viratta, and release through wisdom, panya vimutta, an Arahant's point of view is totally different from the worldling's point of view. What appears as real for the worldling is unreal in the estimation of the Arahant. There is such a wide gap between the two viewpoints. This fact comes to light in the two kinds of reflections mentioned in the Dvaitanupassana Sutta of the Sutta Nibbāna. Yam bhikkave sadevakassa lokassa samārakassa sabbrahmakassa sassamana brahmaniya pajaya sadeva manussaya idang sacchanti upanijjhāyitam tadang haryanang etang musāti yatha bhutang sammappanyaya sudittam. Ayam ekanupassana. Yam bhikkave sadevakassa lokassa samārakassa sabbrahmakassa sassamana brahmaniya pajaya sadeva manussaya idang musāti upanijjhāyitam tang ariyanang etang sacchanti yatha bhutang sammappanyaya sudittam. Ayam dvitiyanupassana. Monks, whatsoever in the world with its gods, maras and brahmas, among the progeny consisting of recluses, Brahmins, gods and men, whatsoever is pondered over as truth, that by the Aryans has been well discerned with right wisdom, as it is as untruth. This is one mode of reflection. Monks, whatsoever in the world with its gods, maras and brahmas, among the progeny consisting of recluses, Brahmins, gods and men, whatsoever is pondered over as untruth, that by the Aryans has been well discerned with right wisdom, as it is as truth. This is the second mode of it. From this, one can well imagine what a great difference, what a contrast exists between the two standpoints. The same idea is expressed in the verses that follow, some of which we had cited earlier too. Anattanyaptamani passalokang sadevakang nivittham nama rupasmin idang sacchanti manyati yena hi manyanti tato tang hoti anyatha tang hitassa musa hoti mosa dhammang hitha amosa dhammang nibbānam tadariya saccato vidu teve saccābhisamaya niccāta parim. Just see the world with all its gods, fancying a self where none exists. Entrenched in name and form, it holds the conceit that this is real. In whatever way they imagine, thereby it turns otherwise, that itself is the falsity of this puerile, deceptive thing. Nibbāna is unfalsifying in its nature, that they understood as the truth. And indeed, by the higher understanding of that truth, they have become hungerless and fully appeased. Let us go for a homely illustration to familiarize ourselves with the facts we have related so far. Two friends are seen drawing something together on a board with two kinds of paints. Let us have a closer look. They are painting a chessboard. Now the board is checkered. Some throwaway chunks of wood are also painted for the pieces. So the board and pieces are ready. Though they are the best of friends and amicably painted the chessboard, the game of chess demands two sides, the principle of duality. They give in to the demand and confront each other in a playful mood, a hazy idea of victory and defeat. Another duality hovers above them, but they are playing the game just for fun, to while away the time, Though it is for fun, there is a competition. Though there is a competition, it is fun. While the chess game is in progress, a happy-go-lucky benefactor comes by and offers a handsome prize for the prospective winner to enliven the game. From now onwards, it is not just for fun or to while away the time that the two friends are playing chess. Now that the prospect of a prize has aroused greed in them, the innocuous game becomes a tussle for a prize. Worthless pieces dazzle with the prospect of a prize. But just then, there comes a pervert killjoy who shows a threatening weapon and adds a new rule to the game. The winner will get the prize all right, but the loser he will kill with his deadly weapon. So what is the position now? The sportive spirit is gone. It is now a struggle for dear life. The two friends are now eyeing each other. As an enemy. It is no longer a game, but a miserable struggle to escape death. We do not know how exactly that game ended, but let us hold the post-mortem all the same. We saw how those worthless chunks of wood, picked up to serve as pieces on the chessboard, received special recognition once they took on the paint. They represented two sides. With the prospect of a prize, they got animated in the course of the game due to cravings, conceits, and whims in the minds of the two players. Those impulses were so overwhelming that especially after the death knell sounded, the whole chessboard became the world for these two friends. Their entire attention was on the board, a life and death struggle. But this is only one aspect of our illustration. The world, in fact, is a chessboard, where an unending chess game goes on. Let us look at the other aspect. Now for the Arhat, the whole world appears like a chessboard. That is why the Arhat Adhimutta, when the bandits caught him while passing through a forest and got ready to kill him, uttered the following instructive verse, which we had quoted earlier too. Tinakattha samang lokam yada panyaya passati mamattang so asangindang natti meti nasochati. When one sees with wisdom this world as comparable to grass and twigs, not finding anything worthwhile holding on to as mine, one does not grieve, saying, "Oh, I have nothing." Venerable Adimutta's fearless challenge to the bandit chief was extraordinary. You may kill me if you like, but the position is this. When one sees with wisdom the entire world, the world of the 5 brigades, as comparable to grass and twigs, one does not experience any egoism, and therefore does not grieve the loss of one's life. Some verses uttered by the Buddha deepen our understanding of the Arahant's standpoint. The following verse of the Dhammapada, for instance, highlights the conflict between victory and defeat. Jayang verang pasavati dukkhang seti parajito upasanto sukhang seti hitva jaya paraja. Victory breeds hatred. In sorrow lies the defeated. The one serene is ever at peace, giving up victory and defeat. As in the chess game, the idea of winning gives rise to hatred. The loser in the game has sorrow as his lot. But the Arahant is at peace, having given up victory and defeat. Isn't it enough for him to give up victory? Why is it said that he gives up both victory and defeat? These two go as a pair. This recognition of duality is a distinctive feature of this Dhamma. It gives in a nutshell the essence of this Dhamma. The idea of a duality is traceable to the vortex between consciousness and name and form. The same idea comes up in the following verse of the Attadanda Sutta in the Sutta. Yasya nathi idam meti Paresam vapi kinchanam. Mamattam so asangindam. Nati metina sochati. He who has nothing to call this is mine, not even something to recognize as theirs. Finding no egoism within himself, he grieves not, crying, "Oh, I have nothing." So far in this series of sermons on Nibbāna, we were trying to explain that what sort of a state Nibbāna is. We had to do so because there has been quite a lot of confusion and controversy regarding Nibbāna as the aim of the spiritual endeavor in Buddhism. The situation today is no better. Many of those who aspire to Nibbāna today aim not at the cessation of existence, but at some form of quasi-existence as a surrogate Nibbāna. If the aiming is wrong, will the arrow reach the target? Our attempt so far has been to clarify and highlight this target, which we call Nibbāna. If we have been successful in this attempt, the task before us now is to adumbrate the salient features of the path of practice. Up to now, we have been administering a purgative to dispel some deep-rooted wrong notions. If it has worked, it is time now for the elixir. In the foregoing sermons, we had occasion to bring up a number of key terms in the suttas, which have been more or less relegated into the limbo and rarely come up in serious Dhamma discussions. We have highlighted such terms as sunyata, dveta, tatata, atamyata, idappaccheta, papancha, and manjana. We have also discussed some aspects of their significance. But in doing so, our main concern was the dispelling of some misconceptions about Nibbāna as the God. The aim of this series of sermons, however, is not the satisfying of some curiosity at an academic level. It is to pave the way for an attainment of this God by rediscovering the intrinsic qualities of this Dhamma that is well proclaimed, Swakāto, visible here and now, Sanditthiko, timeless, Akaliko, inviting one to come and see, Ehipassiko, leading one onwards, Opanayiko, and realizable personally by the wise, Pacchattam Veditabbo Vinyu. So the few sermons that will follow might well be an elixir to the minds of those meditators striving hard day and night to realize Nibbāna. Lobho doso cha moho cha purisang papachetasang hingsanti atta sambhuta tachasarang vasang param. Greed and hate and delusion too, sprung from within, work harm on him of evil wit, as thus its fruit on the reed for which the bark is split. The main idea behind this verse is that the three defilements, greed, hatred, and delusion, spring up from within, that they are atta sambhuta, self-begotten. What is the provocation for such a statement? It is generally believed that greed, hatred, and delusion originate from external signs. The magic show and the chess game have shown us how signs become significant. They become significant because they find something within that they can signify and symbolize. Now this is where the question of radical reflection, Yoniso Manasikara, comes in. What the Buddha brings up in this particular context is the relevance of that radical reflection as a prerequisite for treading the path. The worldling thinks that greed, hate, and delusion arise due to external signs. The Buddha points out that they arise from within an individual and destroy him, as in the case of the fruit of a reed or bamboo. It is this same question of radical reflection that came up earlier in the course of our discussion of the Madhupindika Sutta, based on the following deep and winding statement. Chakkunchauso paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku vijñāna. Tinnang sangati passo. Passapacchaya vedana. Yang vedeti tang sanjanati. Yang sanjanati tang vitakketi. Yang vitakketi tang papancheti. Yang papancheti tato nidānang purisang. Papancha sanya sankha samdhacharanti. Atitānāgata paccuppannesu chakku nyeyesu rupesu. Dependent on eye and forms, friend, arises eye consciousness. The concurrence of the three is contact. Because of contact, feeling. What one feels, one perceives. What one perceives, one reasons about. What one reasons about, one proliferates. What one proliferates, on to that, reckonings born of prolific perceptions overwhelm him in regard to forms cognizable by the eye relating to the past, the future, and the present. Eye consciousness, for instance, arises depending on eye and forms. The concurrence of these three is called contact. Depending on this contact arises feeling. What one feels, one perceives. And what one perceives, one reasons about. The reasoning about leads to a proliferation that brings about an obsession, as a result of which the reckonings born of prolific perceptions overwhelm the individual concerned. The process is somewhat similar to the destruction of the reed by its own fruit. It shows how non-radical reflection comes about. Radical reflection is undermined when proliferation takes over. True source, the matrix, is ignored. With the result, an obsession follows, tantamount to an entanglement within and without. Anto jata bhajata. The paramount importance of radical reflection is revealed by the Suchiloma Sutta found in the Sutta Nibbāna, as well as in the Sagataka Varga of the Samyutta Nikāya. The Yakka Suchiloma poses some questions to the Buddha in the following verse. Rāgoca dosoca kuto nidāna arati ratilo mahangso kutoja kuto samuttaya mano vitakka kumarka vankamiva sajanti. Lust and hate, whence caused are they? Whence spring dislike, delight, and terror? Whence arising do thoughts disperse, like children leaving their mother's lap? The Buddha answers those questions in three verses. Rāgoca dosoca ito nidāna arati ratilo mahangso itoja ito samuttaya mano vitakka kumaraka vankamiva sajanti. Nehaja attasambhota nigrodha seva khandaja uthu visatta kamesu maluava vitatavan. Yenang pajananti yato nidanang tenang vinodenti sunohi yakha. Te duttaran ogamimang taranti atinna pubbang apunambang. It is hence that lust and hate are caused. Hence spring dislike, delight, and terror. Arising hence do thoughts disperse like children leaving their mother's lap. Moisture-born and self-begotten, like the banyan's trunk-born runners, they cleave to diverse objects of sense, like the malwa creeper entwining the forest. And they that know where from it springs, they dispel it. Listen, O Yakha, they cross this flood so hard to cross, never crossed before, to become normal. In explaining these verses, we are forced to depart from the commentarial trend. The point of controversy is the phrase Kumaraka Dhankam Iva Vasajan, recognized by the commentary as the last line of Suchiloma's verse. We adopted the variant reading Kumaraka Vankam Iva Vasajan, found in some editions. Let us first try to understand how the commentary interprets this verse. Its interpretation centers around the word dhanka. which means crow. In order to explain how thoughts disperse, it alludes to a game among village lads in which they tie the leg of a crow with a long string and let it fly away so that it is forced to come back and fall at their feet. The commentary rather arbitrarily breaks up the compound term manovitakka in trying to explain that evil thoughts vitakka distract the mind mano. If the variant reading Kumaraka Vankamiva Sadanti is adopted, the element va in Vankam Iva Sadanti could be taken as a hiatus filler, agama, and then we have the meaningful phrase Kumaraka Vankamiva Sadanti, even as children leave the lap. Lust and hate, delight and terror spring from within. Even so are thoughts in the mind, manovitakka. We take it as one word, whereas the commentary breaks it up into two words. It is clear to find the same commentator analyzing this compound differently in another context. In explaining the term manovitakka occurring in the Kumma Sutta of the Dvayavata Samyutta in the Samyutta Nikaya, the commentary says, Manovitakkyeti manabhyupanna vitakki. Manovitakka, this means thoughts arisen in the mind. The commentator was forced to contradict himself in the present context because he wanted to justify the awkward simile of the game he himself had introduced. The simile of leaving the mother's lap, on the other hand, would make more sense, particularly in the light of the second verse uttered by the Buddha. Snehaja atasambhuta nigrodhaseva khandaja puto visatta kamesu maluvaga vitatavani. The verse enshrines a deep idea. Sneha is a word which has such meanings as moisture and affection. In the simile of the banyan tree, the trunk-borne runners are born of moisture. They are self-begotten. Thoughts in the mind cleave to diverse external objects. Just as the runners of a banyan tree, once they take root, would even conceal the main trunk, which gave them birth. So the thoughts in the mind, attached to external objects of sense, would conceal their true source and origin. Non-radical reflection could easily come in. The runners are moisture-born and self-begotten from the point of view of the original banyan tree. The main trunk gets overshadowed by its own runners. The next simile has similar connotations. The Malwa creeper is a plant parasite. When some bird drops a seed of a Malwa creeper into a fork of a tree, after some time a creeper comes up. As time goes on, it overspreads the tree, which gave it nourishment. Both similes illustrate the nature of non-radical reflection. Conceptual proliferation obscures the true source, namely the psychological mainsprings of defilements. Our interpretation of children leaving the mother's lap would be meaningful in the context of the two terms snehaja, born of affection, and atthasambhuta, self-begotten. There is possibly a pun on the word sneha. Children are affection-born and self-begotten from a mother's point of view. The basic theme running through these verses is the origin and source of things. The commentator's simile of the crow could ill afford to accommodate all the nuances of these pregnant terms. It distracts one from the main theme of these verses. The questions asked concern the origin, kuto Nibbāna, kuto ja, kuto samutthaya, and the answers are in full accord, ito Nibbāna, ito ja, ito samutthaya. With reference to thoughts in the mind, The term snehaja could even mean born of craving, and Atthasambhuta conveys their origination from within. As in the case of the runners of the banyan tree and the Malwa creeper, those defining thoughts arisen from within. Once they get attached to sense objects outside, obscure their true source. The result is the pursuit of a mirage, spurred on by non-radical reflection. The last verse is of immense importance. It says, "But those who know from where all these mental states arise are able to dispel them. It is they who successfully cross this flood so hard to cross and are freed from re-becoming."